All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. My name is David Ortiz. I am your rep-elect to the Colorado State House here in HD 38, which is Littleton, the western parts of Centennial, parts of Columbine Valley, and Lamar neighborhoods. So I want to start off by thanking all of you that are here today. And before you all in this community voted me to be your elected state rep, I was and am a son, a brother, a veteran that swore an oath to the Constitution, and an active voter that believes in this democratic republic. So the more involved we are, you being here is an example of that, the healthier and better this democratic republic is. So thank you for being here. The purpose of today is to discuss the bills that I'll be bringing forward this session, but more importantly, it's to build and strengthen this community by giving us the opportunity to get to know each other and our elected leaders at all levels. And to that end, I'm excited that we're also joined by Ilana Spiegel, who is CD6 Regent. We're also joined by Carrie Warren-Gully, who was our Arapahoe County Commissioner, by Robert Reichardt, who is our Littleton Public School Board member. We've got Scott Melin, who is our Mayor Pro-Tem and Littleton City Council member. We've got Kelly Milleman with us, who is also a Littleton City Council member. We've got Candace Moon, who is our Centennial City Council member. Christine Sweetland, who is another Centennial City Council member that's with us. And Kyle Schlachter, who's a former Littleton City Council member and active citizen. So we have a stacked lineup. So to ensure that this is about you and our electeds have agreed to keep their intro short, 1 to 2 minutes, and taking another 1 to 2 minutes to discuss their pressing priorities. We'll then allow 3 to 5 minutes for a question answer block per group. Then at the very end, we'll allot the rest of the time, which should time out to 15 to 30 minutes for a Q&A for everyone. So the code of conduct, how we're going to conduct this, if you have a question, please feel free to ask that question or type it into the Q&A feature, and we will queue you up as you ask your question during the event. So don't hesitate as a question comes to you to go ahead and just type it in there. Rule number 2, please keep your questions and comments short, concise, and to the point. There's a lot of people here today, so I want to make sure we're respecting everyone's time and everyone's desire to get to know their elected leaders and to engage with each other. Number 3, no profanity, no hate speech, no disrespect. None of that will be tolerated here. Number 4, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. If you're disruptive, we will eject you. Look, I'm going to take a page from the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 1 playbook. Before we start every meeting, we always call to mind why we're here and what we're trying to avoid. So what we're trying to achieve here is to facilitate the strength, bonds, and unity that the amazing community that's here in HD 38. Yes, we may have very many different lived experiences, beliefs, and values, but we find our common bond and thread in a few things. 1, the sacred document that binds us all together, the US Constitution. 2, our love of friends, family, and neighbors, this amazing community here. After that, the love of this state. After that, the love of this country. And finally, the love of our democratic republic and this democratic process. So let us not let petty jealousies and petty differences get in the way of us doing that. So at this time, I'm pleased to introduce and allow Ilana Spiegel, our CD6 Regent, to take it from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Representative-elect Ortiz, and thank you all for being here on this cold and snowy Saturday afternoon. So as Representative-elect Ortiz said, my name is Ilana Spiegel. I'm your University of Colorado Board of Regent member from the 6th Congressional District. I'm a mom here in the district, including the student at the University of Colorado and a former educator, and could not be more honored to speak with you today and look forward to hearing your questions. I did want to talk to you today a little bit about kind of the current climate that we're in. You know, we're still amidst this incredible global pandemic that is really impacting each of our campuses and our community, an ongoing struggle for civil rights. And, you know, what we saw at the nation's capital, an insurrection led by domestic terrorists, which, you know, all of those things, you know, remind me that, you know, we really need to meet the challenges of our time and truly commit to values and principles around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Every single person in the CU system, and I would argue even if you don't think you're connected to CU, you probably are in many different ways, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin, their sex, or your beliefs. And CU as a system really needs to work to uncover the systems of exclusion that are keeping too many in our community from fulfilling their true potential. I'm really looking forward to working with Representative-elect Ortiz and other members of our delegation, as long as some of our school board members, on some of the policies that can help begin that process, such as, re-examining the ACT and SAT as a high school graduation requirement and an entrance exam to all of our institutions of higher education here in Colorado, and providing in-state tuition for our Indigenous students. In addition, I'm really looking forward to, as a member of the Board of Regents, leading the way and calling on our governor, the Colorado General Assembly, and our federal delegation to make meaningful investments in higher education and fundamentally reform the way our state and federal government invests in higher education. Continuing to fund higher education 48th in the nation really can't continue. I truly understand the burdens that are placed on our General Assembly, and in particular the Joint Budget Committee, to create and pass a balanced budget, but higher education can't continue to be the first place to cut when times get tough. As it is, as many of you know, higher education remains unaffordable for too many, and it's time for this to change. I really look forward to working with many of the other people on the panel, and those of you in the community, our shared governance leaders within the CU system, to really ensure that our best days are ahead of us. And to that end, I am going to bump it over to my good friend and current Littleton school board member and new county commissioner member, Carrie Warren-Gully.
Thank you so much, Ilana. And thank you to Representative Ortiz for hosting all of us this evening. I also want to shout out a special thank you to Representative-elect Ortiz and Ilana for all of your help and your support and your teamwork as we work together way back in November. And I know November seems like a long time ago, but as I look at the list of participants as well, it's so many of you that came out and supported us, encouraged our campaign, walked for our campaign, made phone calls for our campaign, and contributed. I would not be here this evening if it were not for you. So thank you so very much for all of that and your support. I'm a proud lifelong Coloradan, having grown up in Colorado in Inglewood. And that's where I met my husband, Jim, in the Inglewood Pirate Marching Band. And we have raised our 3 boys here, and they have attended Littleton Public Schools. And Littleton Public Schools, I have recently been serving as a school board member there. On December 10th, I did resign from my position to move into the role of county commissioner. So this has been a very bittersweet time and transition time for me as I step off from that role and as I hand over some of my responsibilities from my business to our very capable employees, and prepare myself to be ready to serve the people of Arapahoe County. I will be sworn in next Tuesday, I think it is, the 11th, maybe that's Monday, and my first day will be the 12th. So I look forward to working with my fellow Arapahoe County commissioners. And as you can imagine, most of the onboarding that I've been doing to this point has absolutely been around COVID. And I'm very excited about the fact that we work very closely with many of the city councils, well, all the city councils in Arapahoe County, but you're going to hear from some of our city council members today of what they're doing with some of the funds. But just to give you a general overall feel of what's going on, as you know, the governor has moved our county from red to orange, which means that we have fewer restrictions, and that has opened up a lot for our businesses and even our restaurants to begin to start thinking about having in-house dining. The move from red to orange was a great move for us, and we also have heard that we are going to be receiving some additional funding from the state to do some small business relief fund grants. And I want to read off here, I'm sorry to be looking at and reading off of something here, but these grants will be available for organizations that are restaurants, bars, caterers, movie theaters, gyms, and recreation centers. So that's the specific area of funding. And at this point, we don't know exactly how much the state is going to be giving us, but we do know that we have to have checks out to people by February 12th. So you see that we have a very short timeline here. So if you are a business owner here in Arapahoe County, one opportunity for some support is through this organization or through this funding, and it is due on your application is due Sunday, January 31st. So the place to look for that is a very important site right now is the Arapahoe County website, which is arapahoegov.com. And right at the very top, it says COVID-19, and you can click on that and it will have all of the resources that are available through the county. The other thing that we're getting a lot of questions about is the vaccines. And I see that I'm getting very short on my time here. So I might leave that open to question and answer time, but we are currently in phase 1A and moving towards phase 1B, which actually has 2 different tiers to it. So I'm happy to answer questions during the question and answer time. Thank you so much. And I'm actually going to hand it off to a very good friend of mine that I've worked with for many, many years, Dr. Robert Reichardt on the Littleton Public School Board.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I really appreciate the introduction, and I'm so grateful to be on this panel with all of these distinguished local leaders. I really appreciate Representative-elect Ortiz putting this together, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to, looks like we have almost 100 people. So I really am thankful to talk to everybody that's participating in this. I have a lot of things to share about what's going on in Littleton Public Schools, and so I'm going to go really quickly. The first thing that I need to do is thank all of the LPS voters who have consistently supported our school through their votes and their finances. 2 years ago, we passed a bond that we are still working through, and this year we passed 4C. And that support from our community is going to leave our education system in a good place, particularly compared to a lot of the other districts in Colorado. So I'm very grateful for that. As Carrie noted, so I'm going to go through 4 different kind of things that are going on right now that I think people should know about. First, as Carrie noted, she has resigned from the board, and the board is now accepting applications for people who would be interested in completing her term, which is through November of this year, or actually through January of next year, but the election will be in November this year for that seat. And so you can look on the LPS webpage. The board will be selecting her replacement in February. And well, I can't use the word replacement. Carrie is irreplaceable, but we will be selecting someone to fill that slot. And so if you're interested in that, and then as I've noted, there will be 3 seats on the board that come up for re-election this fall, 3 members, including Carrie's slot, and then 2 other members who will be termed out. The second thing I want to talk about is COVID, as Carrie and Ilana have talked about. So the first thing is I want to thank our community for bringing the infection rate down in our community. I'm very proud of our efforts to bend the curve down over the past couple weeks. We really peaked at Thanksgiving and have been going down since then, and I'm really thankful for that. And that makes opening our schools much easier. The reality is that we found that our schools are safe places for teachers and students compared to being out and about on the streets. And but we cannot keep our schools open if the infection rate is so high that too many of our teachers are either out because they're sick or out because they're being quarantined. And so our ability to keep our schools open and students face-to-face with teachers is completely dependent on our community keeping the infection rate low. We have next week, we've just completed our first week of school that was distance learning. Next week, the elementary school students will be starting in person. And our goal is for in-person education for all students by the end of the month. Now, secondary students will be doing the hybrid model, so they're there essentially half-time. And our goal to return to normal school is in April. And again, it's completely dependent on our ability to keep staffing both of our teachers, but of our bus drivers and our health assistants and all the other people that help keep our school system going. The last thing I want to talk about is because of the generous support of LPS voters 2 years ago with our bond, and because of the great bond market and our frugal construction team, we are going to be able to build one more elementary school. And our strategy for elementary schools, quite frankly, for the district, is to have fewer larger elementaries. We believe that, well, it's clear that larger elementaries that serve more students are more efficient in terms of staffing, and staffing is our biggest ongoing cost. And so we are considering consolidating another pair of elementary schools. This time we're looking at a pair of schools in Littleton, East and Moody. That decision has not been made, but I expect that decision will be made in the next month. And then we also are going to continue to look at our elementary school boundaries. We have several schools in our system that are simply too small to run efficiently. And I expect over the next 6 months, we're going to have some conversations around what we want our school system to look like for our elementary schools moving forward. And so I encourage everyone to engage in those conversations and look forward to taking questions. And with that, I think that completes our session for us three. And I think it's back to you, Representative Ortiz, Representative-elect Ortiz.
Great, thank you guys so much. Like as I explained, this is going to be our first group. So if you did put questions in the chat, or if you use the question and answer feature at this time, I'm going to have my aide bring you forward to allow you video time if you want. If not, then I'll just have my aide Irina read and direct the questions to the appropriate individuals. So at this time, Irina, if you could go ahead and get that started.
Thank you, David. We did have a few questions from Joe Rice. So I was just going to go ahead and allow that feature if you wanted to have the time to ask those questions. Joe, you should be on.
All right.
I gotcha. Hey, thanks very much, everyone. Well, first of all, so I directed a question to David Ortiz. It probably could come later in the area, but I just want to say, really, how are you guys all working together so well? This is really great. I mean, you have different municipalities, different levels of government. I think that this is really something that our community can benefit from. And I'm hoping that you can continue to expand this to maybe even eventually people from other parties and that sort of thing. And what do you guys see the future of kind of this cross collaboration amongst different communities and amongst different officials?
Great. If one of you three want to chime in, I know that I'm committed to always putting Team America first. I think, Joe, you can see in that picture and appreciate your service. But if there's one thing that comes with that service is understanding that we're all beholden to that unifying document. And that at the end of the day, yeah, we might have our specific platforms and our specific values and beliefs, Team Democrat, Team Conservative, Team Republican. But at the end of the day, what matters the most is Team America. And I'm committed to doing that. And as part of making sure we have a healthy democratic republic, it's one, making sure that we all work together, regardless of what side of the aisle that we're from, what level of government you are. But two, making sure that we're engaging with our constituents and the voter. Because I know I hated it whenever I just got a phone call during election. I also wanted them to ask me what my ideas were or what input, for input during the year. So that's kind of what this is that spurned this. But Ilana, Carrie, Robert, if you want to speak to that as well.
Well, I would say, for the school district sits between a lot of different jurisdictions, and historically, both the city of Littleton and the city of Centennial have supported LPS schools, both providing money for playgrounds, but also providing money for the SROs, the police officers who work in our schools. So I feel like LPS has had a long-standing, effective relationship with the cities, and then we're dependent on the state for funding. The reality is we have to work with the state legislature. The state in Colorado, on average, the state provides 60% of school funding. So schools always have an interest, school districts always have an interest in working with the state government. And quite frankly, running for office and being part of the electoral system has allowed me to get to know Carrie and Ilana, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunities that brings for us to work more with the county and to work with CU. I'm a CU alum. But the county has been working with the school district in our response to COVID quite tightly, both with the county and with Tri-County Health. And so we've had a great partnership, and it continues to be strong.
Great. I'll just kind of add on to what Robert said there, and just in terms of the University of Colorado, as many of you have heard me say, is the third largest employer in the state, but it's the largest private employer here in the 6th congressional district. So, you know, the economic impact, I think it's, you know, over $8 billion of economic impact to this area, so that impacts every area of every part of our community here, whether we have people like Robert, who's an alum, or, you know, my husband and I, who are parents of students there. I think, you know, the impact that CU has on each and every aspect of our community is so important. Joe, in terms of your question about, you know, reaching out and working with other people, and I talked about the ACT and SAT, you know, that's something I'm really proud of, that really the work on that came out of the University Affairs Committee at CU, which is, you know, chaired by, you know, a 10-year Republican on the Board of Regents. And I'm really excited to be able, you know, to work with her in partnership on those issues. These are issues that aren't Democrat issues or Republican issues. These are issues about our students and about access to higher education. And, you know, really look forward to working with my colleagues on the issues that really make a difference to our students in our community. And I think we're all really committed to doing that going forward.
Great. I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask a question. So we're going to jump to the next one. Arena, if you would.
Yeah, next we have Abby Dexter with her question.
Hi, you guys. It's good to see all of your faces. And I'm so proud that you guys have all been nominated into office. So thank you, and you're doing a great job. And I love that you organized this, David. My question is to you, Robert. My kids are in TOPS because I am in the high risk category. And I feel like a lot of the, especially older teenage students, have been very isolated from their school community through this. And, you know, TOPS has done a great job, but they don't know the other students. They don't know the teachers. There's not that, it's just been very hard. So I wonder, is there plans? How will they be? Is there a transition plan for those kiddos?
So, so I'm glad that your children have had a good experience with that. I have 2 children in high school as well. And I would say that they also feel very isolated, although they're not in the TOPS program. That's been a huge challenge for all of our families, the isolation of our students. I feel like we made a commitment to keep TOPS open through this school year. And I think so we don't have a plan to close TOPS during this school year. But I think you bring up a very good point of helping those children transition back to school in the fall. We have a lot of work to do this summer, I believe, and we're having discussions just now to think about how we help students with some academic losses that they may have had during this school year. I think in the big picture, our kids have survived a world pandemic and are going to come out of this stronger and better. But academically, I think some of them are not where they hope to be at this point. And I hope we spend some time this summer helping kids get back to where they are. And I think part of that planning could and should include how do we help TOPS students get back together with their students and reintegrated with their classes. So I think that's a great idea.
Great question, great answer. We have time for one more, Arena, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have a few questions from Sean, but I'll read this one. He's asking, what opportunities do you see supporting raising K-12 teacher salaries to be in line with national?
So as I said, our school funding system is really dependent on the state, and that's not unusual that's a normal thing across the country. And depending on how you slice it, we're in the bottom 10 to 15 states in the nation in terms of school funding. And so teacher salaries are directly correlated with school funding. Thanks to the local initiative, we will be negotiating raises with the teachers union based on passing 4C, but the size of that increase is not going to move us to closer to the national average, and I think that's a real challenge. But the challenge is our state fund. We have through Tabor we have the most restrictive taxing and spending limitations in the country, and until we get voters to agree to significantly raise taxes, we're not going to be able to move ourselves close to the national median in terms of school funding or teacher salaries.
Ilana, Carrie, did you want to touch on that, or are you both good with that answer that Rob gave?
Let me just add that, I think that that's going to be a real partnership with the state legislature. There are some things that the federal legislators could do. For example, they could do full funding of the IDEA, which is special education funding. They could put that to the level that they committed to and fund that completely, which would free up some dollars. But unfortunately, that does rest on Representative-elect Ortiz's shoulders to grapple with. And I know that he is an incredible advocate for us down at the Capitol around that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your presentations and for the Q&A. We're gonna do more Q&A at the end, so stick around if you have more questions for these three. We're gonna move on to our next group of municipal level elected leaders, and I'm really proud to pass it on to Scott Melin at this time.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Let me just start, I think, by sending my love out to everyone who's in attendance tonight. Hope that everyone is having an opportunity to practice some self-care and be with loved ones after a deeply saddening week of events that I do not believe can be condemned in strong enough terms. Thank you so much to Representative-elect Ortiz. Our community is truly blessed to have such a passionate and capable and energetic new leader. And to all my fellow panelists, people who I have such a deep amount of respect for, thank you. And to the almost 100 people in attendance, thank you so much. That's wonderful. My name is Scott Melin. I am an at-large representative on the Littleton City Council and the city's current Mayor Pro-Tem. I was born and raised in Littleton. My children are the 5th generation of my family to call Littleton home, something that I'm very proud of. I grew up in the Littleton public school system. My mom retired after a career teaching in LPS. My wife is a counselor in the district, and my children will also grow up in Littleton public schools. I work in my day job as an attorney, but the most important thing I really do is be a father to my 2-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter, and a husband to my wonderful wife, Marcy. Some of the top priorities that I have in mind for the next year are, first of all, to continue addressing the ongoing public health emergency, along with the county and state and nation. The municipalities of Colorado have a very important role to play in trying to mitigate and eventually move us beyond COVID. Right now, for example, the city's working very hard on the 5-star program and getting our businesses enrolled in that so that they can do more business than they've been able to do. Another priority for me is doing something, getting a start on issues around environmental sustainability in the city. My hope is that we will be able to get it put as a priority in our city's guiding values document, which is our comprehensive plan, and then to develop a work plan. Those are goals that I think can be realized in the coming year. Certainly, affordable housing is a major issue in Littleton that I and others on council will be working on in a few ways. First of all, we need affordable housing. We need downsized housing for seniors. We need starter homes for young families. We need workforce housing, and we need housing that can help our neighbors who are unhoused. One thing that we're going to do, hopefully, is our South Metro Housing Options and their housing task force are in the process of drafting an affordable housing ordinance that, if passed, would require a certain percentage of affordable housing in new multifamily development. That should come before council this summer, and we're working on getting the votes. Lobby your council members if you live in Littleton, because we're not certain that we're going to come up with four votes. Another thing that we're going to do is try to encourage accessory dwelling units, or casitas, as they're sometimes called, as a way to attract private investment to increase our housing stock in the community. And then the third thing is that the city is going through its land use codes and overhauling those. So we have an opportunity to encourage multi-use development and redevelopment in the city that can include things like affordable housing. And then for me, one of the other priorities is focusing on the election this November. I'm very proud of so many of the progressives who did great in our local elections recently, but it's been hard to achieve a progressive coalition at the city council level in Littleton. So just to wear my politics on my sleeve, that's something I'm going to be working on. So thank you all again. And now I will pass it along to one of my very dear friends and my closest colleague, Kelly Milleman.
Thanks. Scott's my partner in crime. So welcome everybody. Thanks for inviting me, David, and thanks for everybody that's participating tonight. I have to say, David, I am so incredibly thankful that the citizens elected you to represent us in HD 38. It's so important going forward, and I know that you already have done an amazing job, and I just can't wait to see where you take this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have to say, I feel like I'm surrounded by such amazing people on this this town hall tonight. All of your experiences, your what you're doing within your communities. I'm humbled beyond belief to be a part of this town hall. And unfortunately, I have to say, I didn't really have anything planned as far as what I was going to say. I am a nurse. I work at Children's Hospital. I have a new job that I've started, which I am, thanks, Robert, which I am super, super, super excited about. But it's 10-hour days of orientation, and it's really exhausting, to say the least, right now. So I apologize, I might be rambling a little bit, but here we go. So my name's Kelly, and I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Not a native of Littleton, not a native of Colorado, but I met my husband in Baton Rouge. We lived in DC for a couple of years while he went to graduate school, and we eventually landed in Littleton, or in Colorado in 1996. Had 2 kids, lived in Golden, lived in Indian Hills, finally made a concerted decision to land in Littleton in 2001, mainly because of Littleton Public Schools. We wanted to raise our kids in a public school environment. I didn't have that opportunity in Louisiana. I was forced to go to a parochial school. So I was adamant that our kids be raised in the public school system. And our kids went, K through 12 through the LPS, and now one is in San Diego working for an aerospace engineering company, and the other one is going to school in California at Cal Poly. So super thankful for the awesome teachers at LPS, and can't say enough about funding our public education schools here. So I didn't think I would ever run for an elected office, but I did. And one of the main reasons I did is because I feel like at some point you have to give back to the community that you live in some form or fashion. And running for an elected office, as terrifying as it might seem initially, it's really awesome. It's just a great way to get to give back to your community, get involved with your community, learn how your community runs. And for that, I'm very thankful that I was elected to represent District 4 on Littleton City Council. So I know that we on council have a lot of different balls that we are juggling in the air, a lot of different things that we want to work on. My main focus, I've decided for this coming year, and probably for the next 2.5 years, is affordable housing, like Scott and Melin said. I am the liaison for South Metro Housing Options. And what I've come to appreciate and to learn, one of the biggest things, I think that for somebody that's looking to grab the American dream, to be a part of the American dream, to live the American dream, is to live in a house, to live in a home. And whether that's a yurt, a tiny house, an apartment, a condominium, single family home, McMansion, whatever it is, it's a home. And as our state has, we've enjoyed an increase in influx of new people coming in because we live in such a great state, that creates its own challenges. One of them being a lack of affordable housing. And we are definitely facing that here in the city of Littleton. Over the next 20 years, we anticipate being short 6,500 plus housing units within this city, a lot of them being affordable homes. So this is something I'm definitely going to be focusing on and pushing for. And it hits on many different levels, helps to prevent homelessness, it works on environmental sustainability issues. We have great transportation choices here in the city of Littleton, and we should take advantage of that. So I know I'm rambling on, but that's what I'm going to be working on, obviously, and too with Scott working on getting some great candidates in November come this election. We've got a couple positions coming up on city council. So come talk to me or come talk to Scott if you are interested in doing that. Thanks.
Kelly, thank you so much. At this time, I have the honor and pleasure to introduce our Centennial City Council member, Candace Moon. If you want to take it from here, please. Oh, you're muted. Muted. Oh. There we go.
There I am. I'm unmuted. Sorry, I'm having to do this on my phone. It's a little bitty screen. But thank you, Representative-elect David Ortiz. I am so happy that you are elected to represent us here in HD 38 as well as in the state of Colorado. I will get right to it. In Centennial, I think we're doing well, all things considered. This is a time that has actually allowed the city to work on a lot of projects that need to be done, and I think are important to our city and our residents. So we are wrapping up an extensive sidewalk repair replacement in District 1. So if you live in Centennial or on the our border in Littleton, you've probably seen a lot of sidewalk being laid along Arapahoe Road, Dry Creek. We're also looking at replacing the bridge over at Arapahoe Road at University. So that project is slated to begin this year. And we are working better able now to dig in deeper to our residents' concerns. We have not been able to meet in person. We do all our meetings on Zoom, and we ask that anybody who wants to come to those meetings, please tune in. They're all open to the public. We have no private meetings. We have a work session scheduled for January the 11th, Monday at 6 p.m. So look at our website, www.centennialco.gov, and you'll see the link. We would love to have you there in attendance. We've been working really hard in the city. We have a testing center for COVID-19 adjacent to the city building on Arapahoe Road. And the wonderful thing about that testing center is it's free. So if a person feels that they've been exposed to COVID-19, wants to make sure that they're healthy, please take advantage of that. Don't pay the $125 if you don't have to. Just come on over and get tested for free. Get your results within 2 days. Our CARES funding. Thank you to Arapahoe County and the state for our CARES funding. Here in District 1, we were actually able to help businesses in District 1 with approximately $800,000 worth of grants in the CARES funding. And that included helping nonprofits in this area as well. We have been working very hard, just like Littleton, on our 5-star restaurants so that they can stay in business and take advantage of being at the orange level. Hopefully everything will work out and they can operate at the yellow level, which I think we'll all be happy about. I do want to comment on the tragedy that occurred with the attempted coup at our national capital. I'm a veteran. My husband's a veteran. I got brothers and sisters who served. I cannot begin to describe the heartbreak that we all are feeling watching this come down. We have to be vigilant in taking care of our democracy. Our country is the envy of the world. We accept everybody's view in this country. We don't always do it right, but we never stop trying. So for anybody who watched that, just stay strong and know that we are not going to stop. We're going to continue to do everything possible to uphold our Constitution and uphold the values that this country is built on. And I can remember being a little girl and getting the whole Jim Crow experience. I don't have to have that now. I'm not going to give it up. I've always worked for it. My parents worked for it to make sure that we were treated as a first-class citizen. There are no second-class citizens in this country. So just keep in mind that even though we are living through this, it is not going to stop. We are going to continue to work hard to keep this country and this state equal and equitable and inclusive for all. And that's all I have. I'd like to introduce my next co-council member, Christine Sweetland.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Moon. And I echo everything that you just said. You eloquently stated how I know I myself and so many people are feeling. Just for those on the call, I appreciate you spending time with us today. I think this is an amazing panel, and I think we're well represented, and I'm thrilled that Representative-elect Ortiz put this together, and I look forward to continuing these types of discussions. A little bit about myself. I represent District 2 in Centennial. My husband and I moved to Centennial about 20 years ago. I grew up in Denver, and we moved to Centennial, and we are raising our 2 children. Our oldest is a sophomore in college and decided that the fraternity house is a lot more fun than the Sweetland house, so he left yesterday. And then my younger son is a junior at Arapahoe, and I have to commend his AP government teacher, who the day after an insurrection decided that that was what they needed to talk about. And so it was a lively discussion at our house as well. And I truly appreciate, as we've all said, the education that our kids get through LPS schools. So a little bit of what we've accomplished at Centennial. Thankfully, Candace went over a few things, but we've done a lot in Centennial. So I have a couple more items that I can add to the list. She mentioned the CARES funding to help our small businesses. It was over $9 million that we gave to our small businesses throughout the Centennial area. And our small businesses still need your help. So I would encourage everybody on this call, please support your small businesses, especially your Centennial small businesses. But please, our small businesses really need your help right now. Centennial has an amazing partnership with both Tri-County and Arapahoe County. And so we've been very fortunate through this pandemic. With Arapahoe County, they have helped us with our CBG grants to help those that are facing food insecurity and housing insecurity. So if you need help, please reach out to Arapahoe County. There are funds for you. And then it also, the CARES dollars allowed us to help some of our nonprofits in Centennial, such as Meals on Wheels, which saw an uptick in a need for having more meals delivered during the pandemic. And so we were able to provide some financial support as well. And then I'm really proud of the fact that in December, Centennial unanimously approved a temporary cap of our delivery fees. So if you are a Centennial restaurant and you use a third-party delivery service to deliver your food, they can't charge you more than 15%. So it's up to you to contact your third-party provider and just let them know, but it is something that we unanimously approved in December. And then in 2021, Councilmember Moon talked about the bridge. That's going to be exciting because we partnered with a lot of people, including there's going to be now an ADA compliant ramp to actually access the Big Dry Creek Trail. So right now, if you want to access the trail, you basically have to ride your bike down the grass. So I'm thrilled that we're going to see that happen. We're looking at the University Corridor to ensure vitality in that area. And Centennial turns 20 this year. So we've got lots of fun activities planned. So thank you again, Representative-elect Ortiz. I think we have great things happening in Centennial.
Outstanding. Well, thank you all, City Council members, for that presentation. This time, let's jump into the Q&A. Arena, who's up first?
So first we have Melinda Wedding. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute her now.
There I am. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha loud and clear.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm grateful for all of you. I think Representative Ortiz knows that I'm the newbie in the group. We just moved here from Texas in 2018. So everything Colorado is new to me, but specifically having interaction with our elected officials is remarkable. We didn't get this in McKinney, Texas. So I'm really grateful for that. One of the biggest shocks that I've had coming to Colorado is the lack of funding in public schools. And I think it's important for me to speak up with recent experience from a different state and say, this is not normal. I'm appreciative, I'm grateful. I have got a senior who's at Arapahoe. I've got a freshman at Littleton High. They're doing well. But the things that teachers and schools have to put up with here, it's really, really unacceptable. And I think it's important for someone to say that. First of all, I was shocked that that there aren't campus nurses. There are aides on campus, not nurses. That's not normal. GT funding here is terrible, and a lot of kids are going to fall through the cracks. When I asked our GT counselor, I think at Powell, when we first landed here, how they were going to ensure everyone got to do like early SAT testing, they were like, well, we don't have a program for that. That's not normal. So these are things that are important to me, and over again, people will tell me Tabor's the problem. So what do we do? How do we fix that? How do we advocate for that? I'm here to listen and learn, but I also need to say, gosh, this is not something we can just tolerate anymore.
Melinda, outstanding comments, outstanding question. I mean, you pretty much hit it to the quick. And if any of the city council members, I know Tabor is kind of above the pay grade, but if you all would like to either echo that or say something on it, please at this time, feel free.
I'm happy to very plainly say Tabor needs to be repealed. I hope that can happen well sooner rather than later. At the municipal level, one thing that we can do is increase the amount of affordable housing stock so that young families with children who will be enrolled in the school districts can move here. For a lot of complicated reasons, school funding is tied in some ways to school enrollment. And until we get those trends reversed of losing pupils in our district, we're going to lose funding. So that's one thing that we can do.
And that's an outstanding point, Scott. That is absolutely correct too. So for y'all that are interested in kind of talking more about that level with that, I mean, you've got some amazing city council members here to discuss that with. So appreciate that, Scott. Anybody else want to chime in or good with that answer?
I agree. We need to get rid of Tabor. Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
We got to fight and get rid of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melinda. Arena, if we want to go ahead and queue up the next question.
So our next question is coming from Sean Matthews. And we have, how can constituents follow local legislation that may be of interest? And do any of our local representatives have email lists that constituents can sign up for?
So,
oh, sorry. You want to go, Christine?
No, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. No, I was going to say, that's a great question. And thank you so much for asking that. One way that you can be involved is maybe it makes it a little easier with COVID that we are doing Zoom meetings, but I know for the city of Littleton, every Tuesday night we alternate between our regular meetings and our study sessions. And you can definitely connect to those meetings every Tuesday night to get an update on what's going on with the city. Also, the city's website is another great resource, and just reaching out to us individually if you have questions or concerns is a great way too.
Great, thanks for that. Anyone want to add to that?
And then on the Centennial website, of course, we have our meetings listed as well, and they're Zoom meetings. So they're recorded. You can listen to them at the time of the meeting or after the fact. But you can sign up for your district newsletter if you live in Centennial. If you're not sure which district you're in, we have a map. And then also sign up for all the newsletters that you're interested in Centennial. There's a business newsletter, things like that. So there are definitely ways that you can get information and involved. And of course, obviously, our email addresses and phone numbers are listed on that website as well, and we're always available, for any communication with our constituents.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, the hidden blessings of COVID has been moving all of our meetings online, and participation in our meetings has soared because of that. And I think that holds for all of the jurisdictions here. So Littleton Public Schools, the board meets essentially twice a month on Thursdays, and it's open to the public and online, and people can have put questions there. And there are several different newsletters we send out to folks, and so I'm going to see if I can find the URL to sign up for those and put it in the chat. But we definitely are open and look forward to constituents communicating with us. And I would just say all of our email addresses are on the web, and we get those emails and we respond to them and we read them. So
thanks, Rob. Candace.
I just wanted to say too that Centennial is constantly looking for volunteers for our different committees. So check out our website. We rotate those committees every year. We're always looking for new volunteers because we get new ideas from our volunteers. So check out our website, and when there's a position open to volunteer for a committee, please put your name in the hat. Thank you.
All right, we're running short on time, so we're going to go ahead and jump to Kyle Schlachter, who's going to talk to us about active citizenry. Again, we're going to have another question and answer block at the end for everybody, so stick around. And I want to just say, y'all should be impressed with yourself, because we started with over 90 participants. We're still holding strong at 80, 88. So thank you guys for being here. Kyle, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Representative-elect Ortiz, and thank you to everyone here tonight that's joining, from the attendees to the panelists. It's truly amazing to see so many people here involved, wanting to hear what's going on in their community. And that's what this whole thing is about community engagement. That's why people run for office, to be involved in their community. As David said, I am a former Littleton City Council member. I grew up in Wisconsin, but I got to Colorado as soon as I could. I've been here for a little over 20 years. Been in Littleton for about 13 or 14 years. I've got two young kids in elementary school here in Littleton Public Schools. My wife is a teacher, and myself, I am an employee of the state of Colorado. So, all levels of government impact our daily life. And it's very important to understand what's going on, and to be open to communicate ideas and opinions with your elected officials, with your neighbors, with your friends and family. And, I'm kind of humbled and honored to be a part of this panel, because I'm the only non-elected official on this panel right now, which just goes to show that you don't have to be an elected official to have a voice. You don't have to be elected to make a difference. Everyone here tonight is doing that. Just by being a part and listening, you are making a difference. You're expressing your voice. And that's amazing to see. It makes me just so happy inside to see that. As people were saying before, that despite all the difficulty this past year has had, and all the bad things that we have witnessed and been a part of, there is a silver lining. And we just discussed that civic engagement is up. More people are expressing their voices, expressing their opinions. Voter turnout is a record high. So people are really wanting to get involved. Despite, being huddled in your basement, people are getting out there and saying, hey, let's talk about our country. Let's make our community, our state, our country a better place for all of us to live. So that's great. And that's what we're talking about tonight. That's why everyone is here tonight, is because civic engagement is so important. After the last election in 2019, when I lost, it was difficult, and I could have, just put on my sweatpants, sat in my basement, hid behind my computer, not showing my face in public for the rest of the year. I mean, that is kind of what I did, but you get the point. It's still important to be involved and be out there and make your noise, your voice heard. It doesn't have to be a huge effort. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors about your community, how they're doing. It's important that we are able to communicate with each other, so it doesn't come to violent outbursts when people feel like they're not heard. It's so important. We can get both sides of the aisles need to get along. In fact, most issues are nonpartisan. They're people issues. It's how it affects individuals, it's families, potholes, streetlights, even education. It is how it affects our families and our friends and our neighbors. So what you can do is, get involved, talk to people, attend a meeting. You guys are all attending a meeting right now, which is amazing to see on a Saturday evening here. It's a great way to also annoy your significant others or your partners now. I love to listen to city council other meetings. I put my headphones in on the couch while we're watching TV, and my wife says something to me and I don't pay attention because I'm listening to Scott or Kelly talk about issues that are important to our community. So it's a great way to be involved, and we have a little fun with it at our house here. As I believe Candace said, volunteer for a board or a commission. All of our communities are looking for people to get involved, to give their opinions, to just serve our community. And it doesn't have to be at a city level. You can do serve at your local PTO. And you may say, well, I don't have kids or I have any involvement with the school district. Every single school in Littleton Public Schools has an accountability committee, and there is a seat for a community member on it. And so if you want to get involved that way, you can go do that. You can serve for the boards commission. I know right now in Littleton, the application period is open. And so if you're interested, go onto the Littleton's website, look to see what they have. Centennial is the same thing. That's actually how I got involved first, is going to meetings. And then I volunteered to be on a commission here in Littleton. And a couple of years later, I decided to run for council, and I served for 2 years. And so it's you never know where it leads. Maybe you decide to run for office. Maybe you decide to volunteer and help someone for office. But there are lots. 2021 may be an off year, but there are lots of very important elections coming up. I know there's 4 seats in the city of Littleton that'll be open, looking for people to run for. As Scott said, he wants it's good, progressive, good people on council to serve our community. And it's really important, as you all the attendees and all the panelists know by being here, is it's really important to have good elected officials. And I want to thank every single person on this webinar tonight for serving, for stepping up, and putting in the time and effort and blood, sweat, tears of running a campaign and being elected. It is just unbelievably important to have qualified, intelligent, and empathetic people representing us. Because if we don't, then who knows what happens. I've just, as other people have said, I'm just heartbroken by the activities that happened in DC, and to see that our current House District 38 representative was in DC and said that those terrorists were extremely polite, is just mind-boggling, and it just makes me so frustrated and infuriated. And I'm so glad that we don't have to listen to that anymore, because we have someone like Representative-elect David Ortiz here to serve us, who he is qualified, intelligent, empathetic, and it's just amazing. And I'm so happy to be able to, talk to him when I need to, but more importantly, just pass the mic to him, and he can talk about what his priorities are and listen to you as well. Thank you.
Kyle, thanks for that. I appreciate you talking about active citizenry, because that's the heart of it. But like I said, before I was elected, I took that right to vote, but not only that, but that right to participate is so sacred. So thank you so much for that, Kyle. My name is David Ortiz. For those that don't know me, I am 3rd-generation service member. My grandfather was infantry in World War II. My dad was Air Force Academy grad of '79, and I was a combat aviator in the Army myself. I'm 1st-generation American on my mom's side. She migrated from Mexico when she was only 15 years old. And my whole life, the vocation of my life has been about public service, whether it was resettling evacuees or creating educational exchanges with universities around the world, or economic opportunities around the world for the mayor's office for the city of Houston, or whether I was flying helicopters serving my country in a more intense way. It's always been about public service. And it didn't stop just because I survived a catastrophic crash when I was deployed to Afghanistan that left me paralyzed from the waist down. I kind of felt like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like you can strike me down, but all it's going to do is make me angrier and stronger, right? But so I came to rehab here at Craig Hospital. That's what brought me to Colorado. Craig Hospital is the best spinal cord and brain injury rehab hospital in the US, and I would dare say the world. And that's what led me to fall in love with Colorado. I was PCS here to Fort Carson. I was medically retired in 2015. And then I started advocating and lobbying for veterans at our state capitol, fighting for higher education reform, criminal justice reform, and mental health care, and then got recruited and asked to run for office. So, you know, when I was asked to serve in a different way, again, public service is my addiction. I could not say no. And y'all decided to put me here. So thank you so much for the work you did in putting me here. I saw the question earlier, so I'm gonna go into the committees I'm in, the bills that I'm in, and kind of open it up for questions and answer after that. So the two committees that I got assigned to were both healthcare committees, and I think that was the right choice by leadership. I mean, my life literally depends on healthcare. For those of you that can't see me, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. And so the two committees are public healthcare and human services. The other one is health and insurance. So those are the two committees I'll be sitting on. The bills that I will be bringing forward that are my bills that I'm the prime sponsor and starting in the House. So the first one is a veteran preference hiring bill for veterans in transition. If it's within 10 years of your DD 214, and that is a document you get when you are discharged from the military, then any business, any small business, large business is allowed to preference hire a veteran. And the reason why this is critical is because there's a golden window when service members are transitioning from military service to civilian life. The taxpayer already paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to train them, to make them leaders. A lot of the time, some service members just need a little help figuring out how those skills translate to civilian work leadership. And so what we find often is if you have, let's say you have a female veteran that had 10 years of communications IT experience, and you had a civilian IT expert, female, they both apply for the same job. I'm an IT manager. I look at the civilian resume. I know what those businesses are. I might know some of the managers that work there. That's very clear to me. I look at the service member's resume. Okay, I see that they were in combat twice. I don't know what that means. 9 times out of 10, they're going to hire that civilian. That's the way that it works. So this bill, one is to recognize the service and the less than 1% that raise their right hand and swear an oath to the Constitution, but also sets up service members for success when they're trying to transition and build up their resume and successfully transition into civilian life. My prime sponsor on that is a Republican. Her name is Rep. Terry Carver. For y'all that don't know her, my favorite describer of her is small but mighty. She was an Air Force JAG officer. She's amazing. She is a Republican. You should look her up. The next bill I'm looking at is a veteran treatment courts bill. If you're not familiar with veteran treatment courts, what happens is if a veteran commits a nonviolent crime and their crime can be tied to untreated or undiagnosed issues rooted in PTSD, they plead guilty. They immediately go on probation instead of going into jail. And they can be reunited and reintegrated back with their families and society if they meet certain gates, which means like meeting a psychologist, meeting a counselor. It's a very successful program. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it saves the state money because it costs us over $40K a year to incarcerate an individual. So what this bill will do is if there's a jurisdiction that does not have a VTC, a veteran treatment court, because it's not all across the state, and that veteran qualifies for a VTC, the judge can contact another judge in a jurisdiction that does have one and request a transfer. The judge receiving has to agree to it, but what this will do is it'll have zero fiscal impact, and that's important in a time of COVID-19 when the state budget has been hit a little bit, and it'll still give that veteran an opportunity to take advantage of that program. The next one was actually brought forward to me during the campaign by a constituent who said he was a year and some change outside of paying his debt of being incarcerated. And he was like, hey, why don't we do something to help those that have paid their debt that are trying to transition back into regular life, a get out of jail starter pack. So I took that to heart. That's another bill that we're looking to bring forward. In order to prevent a fiscal note, we're looking to see for those inmates that are working if they can pay for their own starter pack. So let's say you go in, one of the examples he gave is some go in, their ID expires, and when they're applying for housing, they don't even have a driver's license or an ID to be able to apply for housing. So we're going to look at instituting different levels of starter packs based on what they can afford. Eventually, I would like to look into public-private partnership and eventually state funding. Now is not the time, though, but we're still bringing that bill forward. Another bill we're looking at is making federal ADA law state law, which is going to give those of us that live with a disability and fight accessibility issues every day another avenue and another set of courts to fight for accessibility. ADA was passed in 1990s. It's been done 30 years. It's time. The next bill I'm looking at doing is going to be supporting state apprenticeship programs. There are some amazing good actors and union organizations that facilitate strong, robust, transparent, and accountable state apprenticeship programs that transition individuals to livable wages and good jobs. But there are some actors out there that use state apprenticeships as a means for cheap labor and or free labor. So we just are creating a layer of accountability and transparency that makes sure everyone is acting in good faith. The last thing I'm working on is a sunset law. And what I mean when I say sunset, it's to keep this law going. This has been passed previously, and it's a state compact around physical therapists and occupational therapists, specifically around speech pathology and audiology. So those are the bills that I'm bringing forward that are going to be starting in the House. There's a couple that I will be sponsoring that are starting in the Senate, one around preventing veteran suicide, and one around restoring honor. So that's kind of the quick lowdown and dirty. And I am proud that a lot of these bills are sponsored by members of the other party. And again, this speaks to a core value of mine. Yes, I ran as a Democrat. Yes, I have those values. But at the end of the day, we belong to Team America. We belong to the same American family. My dad is a Republican. I have plenty of amazing men and women that I serve with that are some of my best friends that are family that have that mantle of Republican. And so based on what we've seen the past week, that is the result of division, lies, conspiracy theories, and hate. Let's be very clear about that. So we need to decide whether we're going to be a part of the healing and a part of the solution and a part of working together, or continue to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution. Everyone here I know definitely wants to be a part of the solution. So at this time, let's open it up. Oh, I do have to say about the session, we are going to gavel in the 13th. We're going to do what's constitutionally required. So we're going to be in session for 3 days and gavel out on the 16th of January. So 13th of January to the 16th of January, and allow time for the vaccine to be further dispersed and allow time for the numbers to continue to go down. Our plan is to gavel back in on the 16th of February as long as things continue to go well. Stay tuned though. You can follow us on our social media platforms if you want to keep up to date. It's David D as in Delta or dog, Ortiz, capital C, capital O, or you can sign up for our newsletter. That's another way to keep informed. So at this time, now I'm going to open it up for the big group question and answers. So Arena, if you want to go ahead and start bringing more individuals back in.
Yeah, so we have a question from Steve Barber. It seems that Tabor affects the funding needing for all the programs that we need supported, whether it's homelessness, environmental issues, school and teacher funding, housing and infrastructure. David, do you think there will be a push at the state house level to repeal it, and what support can we constituents give?
So there is a way to do it through the state house. Unfortunately, it requires 2/3 in each chamber to be able to put something forward. That's why you've seen another route more often to try and get rid of Tabor. The route that also got rid of Gallagher this past election cycle is a ballot initiative, is to put a vote for the people. And we have before. I think more people are waking up to the way that Tabor hamstrings us. There are those out there that want to claim that, oh, it just keeps us from running amok and keeps us from spending money. There is not one single state, red or blue. Look it up. There's not one single state, red or blue, that has a law like Tabor. And it's not because it's a great law. It's because it sucks. In fact, in 2012, a Republican legislature, state legislature out of Arizona was thinking about passing something like Tabor. The then Republican Governor Jan Brewer came to Colorado to see how that experiment was working for us, immediately back and went back and vetoed it. They've never tried to pass anything like it since, because not only does it tie the hands of legislators when it comes to funding things, programs that we need, education, higher education, but also it doesn't allow us to be fiscally responsible. Let's be very clear about that. You know what we could have used during a time of COVID-19? A rainy day fund. That's what we could have used, especially when this federal administration was giving state and municipal governments no help. But guess what we can't do because of Tabor? We can't have a real rainy day fund. So there is a reason why no other state, red or blue, has a law like Tabor. Going through the legislature would be an extremely heavy lift. To get 2/3 of the Senate would be an extremely heavy lift. That's not something that we can do at this time. But what we can do is put together another ballot initiative and make sure that we treat that campaign, that initiative, like our own individual campaigns. Leaders, elected leaders at all levels, need to support that initiative if it comes forward again. And you, all the voters out there, need to be supportive and keep your eyes open for an initiative that comes forward like that. That is how we can change things here. So I hope that answers it. If anybody else wants to chime in, please, I don't want to monopolize. Cool, great.
Perfect. Our next question is from Diana. Are there any homeless shelters in the city of Littleton?
Oh, I feel like I should know this. Scott, I see you unmuting.
Yeah, no, there are not, unfortunately. We have too few resources across the spectrum of need, including that there is no homeless shelter. And the resources that do exist tend to be provided by the private sector. For example, we're very blessed in Littleton to have Graceful Cafe, which provides free meals for people who can't afford them. But no, I think that on the whole, our resources for our unhoused neighbors in Littleton are very, very few.
Thanks for that, Scott.
I would say too, there's a 3-city effort, Tri-Cities homelessness initiative. They're actually going to be presenting an update to us, I think, right, Scott, sometime in January, February to council.
Yeah, that's right. So the 3 cities of Littleton, Inglewood, and Sheridan together commissioned a study through the University of Denver to give us a sense of the causes of local homelessness, what it looks like on a very local level. And the councils are coming together here in the next month to discuss the results of that study and to try to find meaningful action items to make progress.
And that's why we're going to be pushing affordable housing initiatives too as well, to try to prevent people from becoming unhoused.
All right. We have another question from Bill Hopping. David, although your primary assignments are health related, will you be in a position to introduce environmentally oriented legislation?
Absolutely. You're not confined to introducing legislation just based on the committee you sit in. So to that end, we do have a committee, a local grassroots committee here made up of individuals within HD 38 and professionals. That's kind of like a think tank to bring forward legislation. So if you would like to be a part of that, reach out to the office. Right now it's being managed by Bill Hanna. And for those of you that haven't heard me say his name before, he was my mentor when I was an advocate and lobbyist. He spent 15 plus years advocating and lobbying for the Department of Health and Human Services. And then he was lead lobbyist working for pennies, lobbying for veterans. So we're lucky to have him on the team. Bitsy Cohn is also on the team. She worked 15 plus years for CC, the Colorado Community College System, specifically around prior learning assessments. She was actually one of the main authors of a veteran bill that I brought forward that did higher education reform. But there's so many amazing people that are part of that committee. I would urge you to become a part of that committee if you're interested in doing research and helping create a palette of legislation that I can bring forward. Great.
Okay, I have another question from Sean Matthews. Would it be possible to fund a shelter at the county level?
Well, Sean, I don't know about that, and I'm gonna claim that I'm a newbie at this, and I'm learning all of this. So I will definitely be looking at that. That is certainly something that I heard a lot of on the campaign trail. I will tell you that before taking office, I have tried to reach out to almost every city council member that is in my district. And I will tell you that the #1 issue on their docket is homelessness. And that is why Centennial and Sheridan and Littleton and Inglewood have started this tri-county health, or I'm sorry, the tri-city study to study homelessness and figure out what does it look like for us in this area, and why are people experiencing homelessness and what type of homelessness. So the county did put in a little bit of funding towards that study. So we will be actively involved in hearing what's happening from that. But as we've talked about on this call, the reason that came together was through a partnership between the city and county. And I would say that eventually this is going to take a partnership between cities, county, state, and federal as far as solving this problem. So I really look to working with everybody to try to figure that out and make sure that we can find a way to, first of all, try to keep us from having a high population of homelessness. And we all know that many of that is due to substance abuse or addiction. and other mental health issues. So we have to boost up that funding and help that programming so that we can try to keep that from happening.
Great answer. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, we have a question coming in from Leslie. Are there specific ways to join sustainability initiatives in line with what Council Member Melin talked about?
I guess maybe I don't understand the question. I'll take a shot though. I mean, as things stand in Littleton, we have no policy that is explicitly addressed to sustainability. Now, we have coincidentally stumbled into something that could be called sustainability in various programs and so on, but there's no cohesive, comprehensive effort to move that type of policy forward. So, you know, I've pushed very hard on this as one of the reasons I would be very hopeful to have a progressive 4 votes on the council is to get things like this moving forward. What I think we will be able to achieve is, as I mentioned, putting sustainability into our comprehensive plan, which is a values document that basically steers the city's direction. So that would be an important gain. And then developing a work plan. Right now, I'm talking about a 2-year work plan to actually identify and prioritize specific sustainability related goals. And you know, I'll take help wherever I can get it, from the council, from city staff, from the county, from the state, anywhere. So yeah, important stuff.
Yeah, let me jump in here and add to that. I mean, while there is no sustainability committee, becoming a board member or a commission member, volunteering that way to add your opinion about that to help set policy is important. Also, not doing that, call into city council, call into meetings and say, hey, we want you to add sustainability to this document or this policy, things like that. And that goes a long way. So make your voice and your opinion heard.
Great, thanks guys.
Okay, I have a question from Aaron. Does Rep-elect Ortiz plan to sponsor or sign on to any legislation on police reform and or restorative social justice? The events of the past week are proof positive the disparate law enforcement responses against the disproportional law enforcement responses against people of color.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer to that is absolutely. I do have 2 great mentors in the House that passed this year's police reform bill with Representative Leslie Herod and Representative Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez. So they have been leading the charge on this. I know there's plans in the works to continue leading the charge on this, and you can bet that I will be putting my full support and weight and vote behind the things that they bring forward. As details develop about what they're looking to bring forward, again, sign up for that newsletter, because that is the way that I'm going to be keeping everyone informed. I will be putting it out on social media as well. So please keep in touch that way. If you would like to be a part of forming legislation like that, again, join our committee around forming legislation. So love to have you be a part of that as well. Great.
If we have any other questions, please go ahead and submit them now.
Look, I got to say that I'm really excited to the fact that so many of y'all came out. I mean, a lot of people don't understand it. I'm ignorant of this. I don't know what a county commissioner does, but I've been learning, that's for sure, because I have a great partner in Carrie Warren-Gully. See, Regent, that became very apparent and clear to me when I was advocating and lobbying for veterans, because they do have a team of lobbyists that do set an agenda. So the work that she's going to be doing is going to be extremely important. I mean, higher education keeps getting more and more expensive. Because of Tabor, though, we're having to cannibalize to fund K through 12 from higher ed. That's normally where it comes from. So we need leaders like this involved in interacting with constituents like you all. So do we have another question pop up during the meantime, or?
From Abby Dexter, what will be done for better mental health?
Great. So there are a lot of bills that my peers are bringing forward. Being the newbie myself and the freshman, there are a lot. that are working in that arena and have claimed the mantle of champion. I know Representative Daphne Michaelson-Janae is one of them. I know Senate President Leroy Garcia, again, as I mentioned, is bringing something forward around preventing veteran suicide. They were looking at a bipartisan model that worked in New York State. And he's been working closely with the governor's office. When I do get details, I'll make sure I put that out as well. But there is going to be a lot of work around supporting mental health, because I really think it's at the heart of everything. When we're talking about homelessness, when we're talking about addiction issues, that's really what it's at the heart at. And this is why I feel like I am so empathetic with it, because there is a version of a David Ortiz who didn't get off of pain meds when he first got injured and became addicted and became depressed because of his situation of becoming paralyzed, and ended up homeless and ended up out in the streets. And I think that would behoove all of us to realize that could be any one of us given the right situations in life. So yes, we're gonna be working diligently on mental health. I'm still have not let go of that proposal around creating a special forces of mental health care professionals that belong to school districts. The key to any of that is going to be funding, of course. I would like to see a group of professionals that belong to a district that can rotate between the schools in the district, that can do in-services for the teachers, that can do in-services for the students. And if, God forbid, there's ever an emergency, if someone's parents get in a car crash or something happens at a school, that they can helicopter in and be that kind of emergent care. So I'm still, married to that idea. I'm looking and biding my time until we can look for some funding around that. So
I would just like to add, we're very aware that the pandemic has absolutely been very challenging to the mental health of our students, and we are working hard to do what we can to respond to that and give access to mental health resources for our students. But it is absolutely a partnership between all of the different organizations in our community to help out with our young people's mental health. And that's one of the, quite frankly, one of the wonderful things about having Carrie on the county commission is to increase our collaboration around supporting the mental health of our students. But I just want to be clear that we absolutely understand that this is a big challenge facing our community and facing our children.
Can I just add 2 seconds onto that? There is a understanding on my part that, there's a lot of services that are available in our community, private providers, public providers, hospitals, and all sorts of different organizations and nonprofits that provide mental health care in our community. But many times people don't have the ability to access them correctly because there's no centralized way for us to get that information out. So there are some examples in other counties. Believe it or not, Douglas County has an excellent organization that works on bringing together everybody from different parts of the mental health community to a round table that meets, I don't know whether it's just monthly or every 2 weeks. And they talk about ideas of how to bring this community of mental health providers together and make it so that it's accessible to people in any part of the county. So that is one of my goals, is to really try to figure out if we can get a committee like that together or a group like that together, that we can start promoting and talking about mental health, substance abuse, and all of these other issues, so that we can bring them to the forefront, help people utilize their healthcare, their insurance and other things to get access to the information, so that we can start dealing with this issue. It is an issue not only from our schools all the way on up to our seniors, and we need to make sure that we're addressing it all the way across the spectrum.
Yeah, I'd also just add to that, at CU, we have an incredibly loyal and generous donor base in the CU Foundation that, as a result of the mental health crisis brought on by the pandemic, that exacerbated the existing mental health crisis, gave millions of dollars to the campuses to increase the number of mental health professionals available to students, faculty, and staff on the campuses during this time. So it's a huge priority, and I'm very grateful for the loyalty of the CU community for that.
Outstanding. Thank you all for that. That was a great answer. great group effort.
We have a question from Steve Lowry for Scott and Kelly. What is the status of the development at the southwest corner of Mineral Avenue in Santa Fe, and will it include affordable housing?
Yeah, I don't mean to cop out, but as far as I know, there are quasi-judicial restrictions that prevent me from really making too many public statements about that. Meaning, when that proposal comes before council, I basically have to act like a judge. So I'm pretty limited, unfortunately, in what I can say about it. So I apologize. It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. The only thing we can say is something will happen there. That's all we know.
I have no limitations, so I can hop on real quick. Good thing about not being elected. So I believe I haven't followed it all that closely. If it's quasi-judicial, it means that there is been an application put in by the developer. Last I saw, they have a plan to put in commercial and some residential. They need to rezone it because the zoning that currently is on that property puts the residential property housing on the Santa Fe side and the commercial by the river, which honestly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they're putting in, they want to flip it, put some commercial, and then over by Santa Fe in the north corner, put some apartments, I believe. I don't know this total number it would be the northwest corner of that property, and then a senior assisted living home, kind of in the south part of that property. But go to the city's website. The application should be up there. It should be public. You can take a look at that and see what they're doing. I don't think there was any affordable housing in that, but it'd be a great time to call in to the city council meetings, the planning commission, and voice your concern, give feedback of what you would like to see there. So that's where public engagement is really important, because honestly, especially at the city council level, there's very few people that comment, and we get, the council members get the same 5 people that say the exact same 5 things. So send an email to all of them, let them know, get your friends and neighbors involved, and say, hey, this is what we want. We understand these are the things that are going on, but just get more involved.
Yeah, these are city council members and non-city council member are going to be y'all's best friends. I'm not joking you. Sometimes I'll text Kyle and be like, hey, when's the next meeting? What are we talking about? Where do we stay? Like, just to try and get the update on what's going on. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them.
Can I just add real quick onto that? Reach out if you agree and you think your council member also agrees, because so many times we hear from the people that disagree. And so we think that's what the community wants. So make sure your voices are heard every single time. And I'll give a for instance, in Centennial, we were talking about the mask mandate, and it went through the study session, and it looked like we were not going to enforce a mask mandate. But thanks to so overwhelmingly, we got so many emails from our constituents, 85% were in support of a mask mandate, that it ended up changing people's minds. So whether you think everybody agrees with you, just take a little, drop a little note and say, I really like that you guys are doing this, so that we know that this is what our constituents want. And I know I just did that with Representative Crow. I don't know if you read his article in Rolling Stone magazine. I was so moved by what he did during the insurrection the other day that I just sent an email saying, I appreciate that you represent me. And it means something when you do that. So I know we're all busy and things like that, but don't think that everybody agrees with you. Just take a second and say, yes, this is what we should be doing. So thanks.
Candace, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing to that too. Your voice, speaking to your local elected official, in this case, your city council member, is the most effective way for you to effectuate change, because we cannot afford not to listen to you when you ask us for help, you ask us questions, you give us opinions, you want to see environmental issues take place. We cannot ignore you because we are right here in your same community. So please reach out to us to ask what is going on for your needs, because this is the most effective way to get things done. Because if we can't do it, we're going to bounce it over up to David or another elected official that has more power than us. So please ask us. Thank you.
Great comment, Candace. All right, Irina, do we have any other questions or?
We have a bit of a long question from Beverly Bunker, and I was going to give her maybe a minute to talk if she would like to ask it.
Great.
Hi, am I popping up? Hey.
We've got you.
This is Beverly, and I posted some information earlier. I was really fortunate this morning to go on live with the Aurora senators and representatives, and they're a pretty scrappy group, and a lot of fun. Anyway, they're very much interested in COVID and believe that's going to be the gatekeeper that we need to unlock to move forward, get mental health down, kids in schools, etc. I have worked with Carrie before and several people on the board, the group here. And I think the most important thing that we can do, and Christine, I thought your response there was excellent. How do we get all these people storming the US Capitol, and how can they be so angry? And I think if we can get people involved, and that was my question or my suggestion that I put on the side, and that is, ask people to join Team Colorado, get a picture ID with a lanyard. Everybody wears them in businesses. We wear them on our ski slopes. We funnel people in, we get people to move forward, and we'll show people, because they can be part of the solution, to really move this whole COVID vaccination forward. As a nurse and a respiratory therapist, I have a master's degree in business communications. We're going to get a big surge of people to get their vaccinations right now. But what happens when we get that 20% in, that 40% in? We need 80% in. And I think we can do that by getting people involved. You know, David, you're really good at this. You get people excited. And from PTO work or whatever, get people and give them a job. If I wear a lanyard and I go into King Soopers, I'm saying to my community that I'm keeping you safe, I'm keeping other people safe, and I'm especially keeping the employees safe. If you look at messaging, which is one of the things I studied a lot at USC in California, I'm listening today and this evening, and this is kind of bouncing around a little bit, but our messaging is so different. You know, you all say, I want to help kids in school, I want to help homeless, I want to do whatever. If what we really want to do, we need to change our messaging and say, I'm wearing my lanyard, I'm getting COVID, a vaccination, and I'm helping economics. Republicans hear that. Republicans hear responsibility. And I'm not just, you know, only isolating them, because there was this discussion earlier this morning about the Black community and getting or not getting vaccinations. But how are we going to get people excited about jumping up and do their part? We have those silly little button, you know, stickers, I voted, and everybody wears them and you get your selfies. And so I think, you know, it isn't that costly to do lanyards, but people are going to feel safe. And when they're safe, they're going to go to King Soopers. They're going to go and buy restaurant carry out, because they know that restaurant and their employees have all had their vaccination, and stress, anxiety, mental health is going to go down, jobs and the revenue in Colorado is going to go up. Because the bottom line here is getting us back to normalcy. And that's about the economy. Now, as a nurse, a pediatric nurse, of course, I'm going to say, you know, it's kids and school and mental health and all that other stuff, but that's not going to grab the biggest amount of attention. And the other thing is, I really do think we need to look at some of our messaging. The Republicans did a really great job of grabbing defund the police. We need to change that around, and we need to say, we need state and local funding, because if we don't, we defund the police. What I'm really saying is I want to give more money back to LPS. I got a real problem with Tabor, but that's a real long messaging, statement to make. So how do we present it to people so they'll hear and get them on board? So just
Great.
some thoughts.
No, thank you so much for those thoughts. I mean, right off the top of my head, the one thing I can think of us doing together as a team, and I've seen people already doing this, is when you get vaccinated, whether that's the flu vaccine, or the COVID vaccine, is people are posting their cards. Now, I will say this, when you're gonna post your cards, if you're gonna post a picture of that, please erase your personal information or black it out. Please do that. But let's go through either this office or we can do the county's office and put out a newsletter, flood our social media with everyone and their cards with the thumbs up. I mean, whether it's the flu vaccine or the coronavirus vaccine, creating a buzz around that with the hashtag is one thing that we can do. Would love to have your participation and thoughts and ideas around another committee that we have, which is the Community Outreach Committee. That would be the appropriate place to kind of be a think tank for different ways that we can promote excitement and personal responsibility and kind of start owning this language again around, look, if we do the right thing, we can open up our economy again, our schools are gonna be safe, and we're gonna get back to work. So I think that's great. Thanks for your input, Beverly. I really appreciate that. Arena, we have 2 more questions left.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I also believe I have your phone number, Beverly, so I can reach out to you directly to get you involved with the outreach committee. And Candace, do you have your hand
Well,
raised?
just one other last comment. I would really love to see, kids dancing when they're standing in line to get vaccinations and, coloring logo symbols. I mean, let's put these kids with amazing ideas to work, and that'll really make Robert look good. Thank you.
All right. One more question. How can I help with, this is from Christine. How can I help with the disability accessibility bill? I have ALS and am wheelchair dependent. I have discovered how disability is unfriendly in Colorado, how unfriendly it is, and would like to assist with this type of bill.
So glad to hear you say that. We do actually have a specific group. Some of us that are part of this group live with a disability. Some of us either have family members and some of us just don't and are interested in this issue. But if you give Arena your contact information, we will get you plugged in, whether that's to testify for the bill that I'm bringing forward this year. And we've already talked about 2 or 3 sequential bills coming after that to promote and fight for accessibility. So it's not going to stop at just this one bill. Would love to have you be a part of the team and would love to get you involved. Great.
Okay, and then last question. Will David be at Thursday's HG38 meeting to continue his informative narrative about what he's working on at the state capitol?
HG38 is my family. I always say I was so lucky to run in this community, and anybody else here that ran for office this year also knows that that is true. I did not do this alone because look, again, before I was a candidate or an elected, I was a voter and a precinct chair and a precinct captain. And I remember in 2018, when we came within 374 votes, all of us did. So we were ready, we were motivated, we were excited, and we had great and amazing leadership under Carolyn Blanco Lozada and all the others. And y'all know who you are. If I try and say all your names, I know I'm gonna forget them. But it was such a joy and a pleasure to run for office here because there are so many of you that care and that are passionate, not just about your neighbors, but about the state and about this country. So you better believe I'm going to be at the HD38 meeting for sure to answer that question. So great. Thank you all so much for attending. I mean, at the highest, we had like 93 people attending. And to my panelists, thank you so much this time. If you want to do a quick one-liner as a salutation or a goodbye, please feel free. We'll start with Kelly. She's next on my list. So.
For me?
Yeah, just a quick goodbye, thanking everybody, whatever you want to say, quick one-liner.
Happy 2021. Hopefully this is a change in the trajectory. I will just say, I will implore as a nurse, please continue to wear this, please. And also, if you're willing and able, please get the COVID vaccine. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Kelly. And next is Christine.
I just want to thank David once again for bringing us all together. I think this was great. I'm so amazed how many people showed up for this, and I really appreciate everybody that attended, that listened to us, and I hope that we get to do this again soon. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Christine. Gary?
Thank you so much for hosting. Thanks to everybody for helping all of us get here, because it wouldn't have happened without you all. I will just remind you, please go to the Tri-County Health website, TCHD, I think it is, .org, and they have all of the information on who is up getting vaccinated right now, what the different levels are, and they will also have vaccine locations once those start happening for the general public. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Carrie. Ilana.
Thank you so much, David, for organizing. Thank you for everyone on the panel for being amazing colleagues and partners in the community. And thank you most of all to all of you for showing up. You know, we often say as candidates, you know, it's one thing to show up when we want your vote, but it's another thing to show up when we need to get the work done. And we're all here to do that work alongside all of you, and could not be more honored and humbled that you all showed up tonight, and look forward to continuing the conversation. I'll put my email address in the chat again, and look forward to doing this again.
Ilana, thank you. Rob.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I really am honored to be part of this group and have this opportunity to share things with the community. And I appreciate everyone showing up. I want to repeat what Kelly said. We keep our schools open when we keep our infection rate low, and that's a combination of masks and responsible behavior and getting the vaccine when you can. And I will also note that I forgot to say that LPS is opening a testing site for teachers and students and their families at the Champ property, and the people will be able to get tests there as well. So thank you, everybody, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Outstanding. Candace.
Thank you for all attending. This has been very enlightening. I've learned a lot about Littleton. Hey, City of Littleton. I've learned a lot about what's going on with LPS. I try to tune into those meetings because I am the liaison for LPS. But this has been great. And David, I'm going to wish you the best of luck. And I think you're going to be a great representative. You're so grounded and so in tune as to what is going on. Thank you all for sharing, and everybody who came and asked questions. I really appreciate your involvement and your concern about our community.
Great. Thank you, Candace. Kyle.
I'll mute myself there. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining. That's amazing that we had almost 100 people join here. Thank you for all the panelists for being involved, and just everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and stay involved. Thank you.
Awesome. And Scott, you're our anchor.
To my fellow elected officials, thank you for everything that you do and your hard work and your service to our communities. To everyone who tuned in, thank you for your participation. I echo Kyle said, get involved, especially at these local levels. Your elected officials are available, they are accessible. You can reach us with your issues. Please call, email, etc.
Okay, I think what that was we're accessible. Don't be afraid to call or email us. I think that's what that was. You're having connectivity issues, Scott, so I think that's what you were trying to get at.
You know, it's been hard week. Make sure that you're
okay.
kind to yourselves.
We're just gonna have to
please. As a lawyer and me, reread my Constitution on Wednesday. I found it to be kind of a wonderful balm. Anyway, thanks.
It's like we're reaching into the future somehow, or in the past. Anyways, thanks for those words, Scott. For those that we could hear,
sorry.
I appreciate
Can't do
it.
anything about it. Sorry. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone out there, thank you so much for attending today. Our democracy works when you're involved. Period. That's always been at the heart of my public service. Our public service is about you. It is about the community. It is about our neighbors that we love and our friends and family that live here. So don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us, to work with any one of us, and to get involved in bills or legislations or boards and committees that speak to you. Please sign up for our newsletter. You know, maybe we'll have one of these amazing elected leaders do a guest article sometime. Would love to see that happen. So thank you guys for joining us on a Saturday night. Please wear your mask. Please stay socially distant. Do not have any more patience or time for lies or conspiracy theories. There's too much on the line. Our democracy can be fragile. It held, but it can be fragile. So please do your part. It's not about party. It's about our community, and it's about this country. All right, everybody. Love you all. Thank you all for attending. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good